Hello, and welcome to a talk called Thinking About Thinking. My name is Barb Hoppersmith, and I'm a health and wellness coach with the Penny George Institute for Health and Healing. We're part of the Alina Health Organization. So I want to spend a little time with you today unpacking, if you will, the way that human beings think. This is not something that we talk about a whole lot, but I hope that if you spend a little time and pay attention to an explanation of how we think, that then I can give you some ideas for maybe changing the way you think that would be helpful to you. So let's get started. We have an unconscious thinking process. All of us do it this way. We just don't really think about it because it in fact happens unconsciously. So first of all, it is not what we experience, it is the meaning we give our experiences that matter. This is a really important statement, so let me say it again. It is not what we experience, it is the meaning we give our experiences that matter. So, how do we think? We can't possibly be aware of everything that is happening to us and around us every moment of the day. There's too much information coming in. And so we have the five senses, what we see, hear, taste, smell, touch. That's part of what's happening to us at every moment of every day. Then we have our interior monologue that's happening frequently throughout the day. And we're doing all of this analysis about what we are experiencing unconsciously at every moment of the day. So how do we do this in a way that doesn't get us into overload mode? The way we do that is by filtering. So we filter our experiences through our own values. The word value means what's important to us, beliefs, prior experiences, attitudes, and language. And we do this unconsciously without even thinking about it. So let me give you an example of how this might work. Let's talk about two sisters. Both went to Grandma's on a particular Christmas. And the one sister says to the other, remember that Christmas at Grandma's? It was so fun. I had the best time. And Grandma was baking cookies, and I just remember being in the kitchen, and it was so much fun. And the other sister says, that Christmas was really hard for me. Grandma yelled at me that day, and I felt really bad. So one of those sisters filed that experience, that particular Christmas at Grandma's, inside their memory banks in a file folder labeled one of my favorite memories. The other sister filed that memory of Grandma's Christmas under a folder probably labeled, I don't want to think about that because I felt bad. Okay? Same experience, both at Grandma's on the same day, but they had a very different remembrance of it, a very different experience, and the meaning they gave that experience was totally different. So let's talk about beliefs for a minute. This is a big one. Beliefs are things that we think are true. Important for me to say we think are true, because just because we believe that they're true doesn't mean that they necessarily are. So let's take an example. Here's a belief that some of you might have. I'm not smart. So where did that belief come from, that you believe you're not smart? Did somebody else tell you that? Do you believe you're not smart compared to some of your friends? Are you good at anything in your life? If you're good at that thing, how did you learn how to be good at that thing? Some of us learn differently from others. School is often really oriented around listening. Not everyone's good at learning through listening. Some people learn better by watching and learning and following along after they've seen something demonstrated to them. Some of us learn better kinesthetically. For those of you who learn that way, you have to have your hands in the game. And so for kinesthetic learners who are listening to teachers, it's really important for you to take notes. The physical act of writing down those notes helps the information get into you. So if you say, I'm not smart, I challenge you to ask yourself, according to whom and in comparison to whom? My guess is that each one of you listening to this has a lot of intelligence, a lot of ability to learn, a lot of specific kinds of smarts. Here's another belief. I'm too shy. Okay, too shy according to whom again? Who told you that? Is that just inside your own brain? Have other people criticized you for being shy? And too shy for what? Too shy to be the lead actor in a Broadway play? A lot of us are too shy for that. But unless you want a career in acting, it doesn't matter that you're too shy for that particular experience. So are there any times in your life, for those of you who have this belief about yourself, where you feel comfortable in particular places with particular people? Lots of people in this world are shy, and yet they build wonderful lives and have wonderful relationships. Here's another belief that a lot of us operate under. Life is difficult and unfair. Again, according to whom? It's in your brain, but how did it get there? And here's an experiment for you to consider trying. Could you imagine acting for the next 10 minutes, for the next hour, for a whole day, believing that life is actually easy and fair, and see what happens? I can guarantee you that if you have this belief that life is difficult and unfair, that you are going to filter your experiences and allow the ones through that say, see, life is unfair. See, life is hard. If instead you replace that belief experimentally for a little while, see if you actually notice when life is easy and life is fair. All right. Here's a filter experiment for you. Find 3 negative things about the room you're sitting in. I'm sitting in a room while I'm recording this for you all. And if I look around my room, there's a lot of dust. It definitely needs to be dust. And the floor is dirty. It's winter, and there's boot tracks in here even. I also don't have very good heat, so I'm a little chilly. All right. You find 3 negative things about the room that you're sitting in, and then just notice what it feels like to have been focusing on the negative for the last few seconds. Okay, now let's switch it up. Find 3 positive things about the room you're sitting in. I love the lighting in my room. I have beautiful art on the walls, and I have a comfortable chair. So look and find those 3 positive things in your room, and notice how you feel when you focus on the positive instead of the negative. Any shift in the way your body feels. All right. So here's a way of thinking about how we think. It's as if we each have a negative lawyer, a positive lawyer, and a judge in our brain. And at any moment, your judge is constantly deciding on whether to rule in favor of the negative lawyer or the positive lawyer. In other words, your judge is filtering what parts of your experience you're paying attention to you. So ask yourself this question. Do you tend to favor the negative lawyer as you're going through your day? Or do you focus on the positive? Another experiment to try is to say, for the next 10 minutes, the next hour, the next day, I am going to rule in favor of my positive lawyer every time I think about it, and see what happens. Here's a quote from Eckhart Tolle that's talking about where are you living, okay? We have a past, we have a present, and we have a future. There are a variety of emotions that are associated with each of these times. So when we're worried about something happening in the future, we have anxiety, tension, stress, unease, worry. Those are actually all forms of fear. We're thinking too much about something that hasn't happened yet, instead of thinking about what's happening at this very moment. Guilt, regret, resentment, grievance and sadness, bitterness and unforgiveness occur in us when we're thinking about things in the past that didn't go well. Our culture doesn't really honor the idea of living in the present moment, but it is something that we could all do a little more and find that we actually increase our level of happiness by focusing on the present moment. Here's the short form of that same quote. If you want to be anxious, live in the future. If you want to be sad, live in the past. If you want to be happy, live in the present. Kind of a simple idea that isn't necessarily easy to do. But the good news is you can remember this idea at any time and go back to the idea of, I'm going to just pay attention to what's happening here and now. What are you saying to yourself? We all have this inner monologue in our head. It's just the way that human beings are built. So I want you to imagine for the next 10 minutes, the next hour, the next day, that you're going to actually pay attention to your inner monologue. What, in fact, are you saying to yourself? Are you mean? A lot of times I think we're meaner to our own selves than we ever would be to our best friend. So if you can change your inner monologue to be kinder towards yourself, to actually talk inside your head to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend, see how that works for you. And see if you can't decrease the amount of criticism and blaming that your inner monologue gives to yourself. You can actually think of this as, if you criticize and blame yourself all the time inside your own mind, you're bullying yourself. Let's get rid of that kind of bullying as well, shall we? Be kind to yourself the way you would be kind to your best friend inside your own mind and see what happens. So I'm going to end with this idea. There really are 4 pillars of health and wellness. And as a health and wellness coach, I talk about these ideas to my clients all the time. So in order to be well and feel good about ourselves, it's important to think about having a healthy diet, getting healthy sleep, exercise and moving your body throughout the day, and living in the present moment. For the most part, this talk was about that last item. Thinking about thinking and focusing on what is happening in the present moment. So thanks a lot for listening to this, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.